Welcome back to World History. This is the last video of week 4 that we are doing. We are also going to be finishing the notes today as well. So let's get right to it. Letter B, attempts to maintain the peace. We've talked about now the Paris Peace Conference. We've got all that out of the way. And now we're talking about what took place after the war's over. Most of the countries in the world are going to try to find a way to promote peace around the world. Let's talk about these peaceful attempts. Number 1, the League of Nations. First thing you need to know is that it was created by Woodrow Wilson. Yes, President Woodrow Wilson. Second of all, it was an international organization in which nations could discuss their differences instead of fighting about them. The map that you see here on my screen is all the countries that are in the dark blue color are countries that joined the League of Nations. The countries that are in the light blue color are the territories of the countries that joined the League of Nations, the colonies. All the areas that are in the orange color are the mandates that were given to the Allies. So basically everything that's colored joined the League of Nations. The countries that are in the gray, they did not join the League of Nations. Notice especially one particular country over here that did not join the League of Nations. Let's find out why. Wilson was willing to compromise over most of his 14 points in order to get the conference's support for the League of Nations. The purpose of the League was to guarantee international cooperation and to achieve international peace and security. It would make sure the Central Powers carried out the provisions of the treaty. It would promote the rights of colonial peoples and try to improve economic and social conditions around the world. Question might be asked, well, do we have the League of Nations around today? The answer is no. Why did it eventually fail? Letter A. First of all, the U.S. did not join, as we saw on the map. Although President Wilson was the chief architect, the Senate rejected the treaty. At the same time, the U.S. was favoring isolationism and feared that by joining the League of Nations, America would lose their sovereignty to an international organization. Letter B, another reason why the League failed was because the League could only recommend action, not enforce it. The League had no armed forces of its own to police troubled areas. Members of the League were hesitant about using force, which might lead to another war. And letter C, strong nations simply ignored or defied the League. Allied countries like Japan and Italy, who felt they deserved more for their part in the war, were quick to ignore the League and promote their own form of imperialism. Germany would later ignore the League's rules placed upon them as well. The League of Nations was doomed to failure because of the sinfulness and selfishness of men and nations who reject peace. Only true peace will come when Christ, the Prince of Peace, returns. Number 2, Reparation Revisions. Look at page 457, please. On page 457, it shows you a picture of the post-war debt cycle. You can either draw that debt cycle in your notes if you're more of a visual learner, or you could write it out like this. Germany owed the Allies reparations. We know that already, right? Germany was forced to pay the reparations to the Allies. Unfortunately for Germany, they didn't have any money. Another issue was the Allies owed U.S. war debts. The Allies had borrowed a lot of money from the U.S. during World War I. The U.S. had given them these loans, but now the Allies had to pay us back. The problem is, Allies were also unable to afford paying the U.S. back. Their economies had also been decimated. The only money they were going to get was from Germany, which we just mentioned Germany couldn't pay anything back. The only country willing to help Germany out was the U.S. The U.S. loaned Germany money. Instead, most of the whole idea was Germany would be able to rebuild its economy. Instead, most of the loans went to paying the reparations to the Allies. The Allies who had borrowed money from the U.S. to pay for the war effort, because their economies were weak and got their money from Germany, they simply gave their reparation payments to the U.S. This circle of debt continued to spiral the world economy out of control, which would factor into the Great Depression of the 1930s. Number 3, disarmament and non-aggression pacts. Letter A, the Locarno Pact. First thing you need to know is, the only thing you need to know about the Locarno Pact was it was a treaty between Belgium, France, and Germany that promised that their present borders were permanent. This pact created the appearance that countries who had hated each other had found a peaceful solution and brought security to Europe. After all, if these three countries agreed to their present borders, World War I never would have happened, and no war between these countries will ever happen again. If only they could actually abide by this pact. Letter B, the Washington Naval Conference. Rather than believing that war is caused by people, some believe that war is caused by weapons. So to solve this issue, some called for getting rid of most weapons. The term disarmament definition is the elimination of weapons. The elimination of weapons. Maybe in your notes you want to draw an arrow from Washington Naval Conference to the next point, because I'm about to describe what that did. But the Washington Naval Conference sought to limit the number of warships that each nation could build. See, they established a ratio by which to go by. For example, for every 5 tons used for U.S. ships, Britain could also do 5 tons, and Japan could do 3 tons. Other countries were included in this, but these are the big 3. The conference failed, however, because it did not include smaller ships and submarines, and countries like Japan only followed the treaty when it suited their purpose. Letter C, the Kellogg-Briand Pact. This pact outlawed war. That's what you need to know about it. Rather than resorting to war, nations would negotiate differences. It sought to unite the civilized nations of the world in a common renunciation of war as an instrument of their national policy. That was the view that the Kellogg-Briand Pact would do. In the end, 62 nations signed this idealistic agreement. How long is it going to last? 3 years later, one of the signers, Japan, invaded Manchuria. But most people at this time looked to this agreement as the start of a new era of international cooperation. Time will only tell how long this peace will last. That, my students, is the end of the notes. Your last assignment for week 4 is pages 191 and 192 in the activities book. This is a chapter review. Make sure that you do it. It's got some underline the terms that are right, some matching sections, some short answers, and a couple essays on the back. Please make sure that you do all the homework. So for your week 4 packet, you need to make sure that you turn in this homework, as well as 2 quizzes, as well as 3 other assignments. So you'll be turning in a total of 4 activities book pages and 2 quizzes. Please make sure you don't lose these notes. Of course, you'll need them for the test for next week. Hope you all have a good day. Hope you all have a good weekend. Be good, do good. Bye.